Ladies, gentlemen, MBs, we are back and we are here for 2026 Magic! Let's go! Lorwyn is our first set in 2026, and I'm here to hopefully give you a good enough roundabout amount of information to help you win your pre-release. And maybe help in draft and weird things like that. Yeah, so if you haven't been here before, we basically what goes on is we talk about the pre-release for the set, give you a bunch, and I'm talking a bunch of cards, looking at cards and giving a good rundown on, hey, this card's sweet because it might be something as simple as its removal, it's good. Or it might be something of, there are 4 paragraphs on this card, and it's basically a Yu-Gi-Oh card. So here, let's go through every single paragraph and let you know exactly why it's sweet. And it's not a do-nothing with a bunch of filler words. So that's what's going on in this video. I'm sure, as you know, you clicked on it, and title probably says, like, I don't know, the ultimate Lorwyn pre-release guide. And you were like, yeah, that seems cool. Let me click on it. So that's what's going on today. Before that, let's do a little bit of very quick housekeeping. I've been streaming a little bit of Magic, but mostly other games. Looking at Soulframe, Warframe, Overwatch, going to be doing Marvel Rivals, things like that on twitch.tv. Under JNix23, and then also on YouTube, where you have found this video coincidentally. You can go and look at my live stream tab. I have so many games that I've streamed. I think I've done 16 days straight. Took a day off last night, but that's okay. So check that out if that's also something that you're interested in. Otherwise, you're going to keep getting these Magic videos. Definitely a pre-release one because I'm super invested in pre-release. That's when I can get together with my friends and have a good time. So, yeah, let's dive into it. Let's talk about Lorwyn and kind of going back to the plane after a very long time off and what you need to know about the pre-release. First up, as you see, we have this nice little graphic up here. Reminders going into the pre-release, whether you're a seasoned vet or you're brand new or you took some time away. These are always good things to know. So let's look at snacks, and I'll bundle number 3, drinks, right into it. Bring something that you want. I mean, you might be able to buy stuff at your LGS. I assume you probably will be able to. But, you know, you don't want to get hungry after like 4 hours or 5 hours of sitting there and building decks, playing Magic, doing those type of things. Keep you on your A game. Just bring some snacks and drinks. As long as you're not dumping them on cards, nobody cares. Next up, dice. So bring dice to mark things like counters. But you might also want to bring different colored dice. One that is +1/+1 counters and one that signifies -1/-1 counters. Because, spoiler alert, in Lorwyn, there's a lot of -1/-1 stuff going on. So keep that in mind. Now we're going to look at sleeves. You definitely want sleeves. I know that there's people that just bring penny sleeves to these things. Don't bring penny sleeves. There's a lot of double-sided cards. There's double-sided cards in every set, but there's a lot of double-sided cards in this set. I would highly recommend bringing solid backed sleeves. So make sure that you're bringing the right type of sleeves, and that way you don't kind of partially cheat and get in trouble for it, and then everybody gets angry. Good sleeves. And finally, blank tokens. So you're not going to get every single token in your LGS, probably, especially if it's the first pre-release they're running, won't have all the tokens that you need for the set. So bring just blank tokens. Like I have the old ones from, I think, Kamigawa and the werewolf set, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, they have basically just a blank token that I just put in a penny sleeve, write on it with a dry erase marker and say, this is now a 1/1 gnome. Great. So that's something that's just helpful to have around. If you have smaller little bits, you can also, you know, use that to signify your counters if need be. So that is some quick reminders for you. Next up, We're going to talk about tips, things to keep in mind when you're at the pre-release building your deck. First off, you're going to want 40 cards as the bare minimum. You can have a few extra. A lot of people that have watched my videos before know that I have actually put in a good handful of extra cards. Anywhere between like 42 and I think one pre-release, maybe Final Fantasy, I had 47 cards in my deck, which was insane, but just because you have more cards doesn't necessarily mean that you have a worse deck if you're putting quality into it. So at least 40 cards. And then on top of that, about 17-ish lands. If I'm going over 40, I probably will throw in 17, maybe even 18 if I'm on the very high end. But if I'm sitting right at 40, I'm usually putting about 16 lands in, and that seems to be a really smooth spot for me. Now, this also depends on how many colors you're running. Are you running a 3-color, 4-color, 5-color? You're going to need more lands just to make sure you can hit the colors when you need to. If you're running a 1 or 2-color, I mean, you can slim it down a little bit because your chances of getting those colors throughout the game super high. Keep that in mind. Next up, removal is king, especially in pre-release type setting. So I would recommend 6 to 8 removal just crammed into your deck. Whether they do other things, great. But first off, there's going to be a lot of kind of mean enchantments that you might have to deal with. So maybe take 2 of those slots and try and put in enchantment removal of some kind. Trust me, this is going to be a huge thing for you. There's been a lot of pre-releases where the only way that I have gotten myself to basically the number 1 table, the spotlight table, whatever. They're small LGSs. There's not really a spotlight table, but the first table in these pre-releases is by just having enough removal to take care of those big threats that I'm not going to be able to block. And if I didn't have removal, I just die. So removal is king. And finally, going in and looking at your card pool, you want to figure out a typal-ish deck that you're going to be able to play with. Because especially in Lorwyn, it is very, very heavy and very, very lore-rich on types, right? So whether it's, let's see if I can do this. I know there's 7 giants, elves, kithkins, goblins. I'm at 4 and I'm already out. Elementals. 5 is close enough. I'm 2 off. But all of those different types are going to go into creating a little bit of an extra synergy for your deck and really kind of making it do what it needs to do. So, especially in Lorwyn, look at your cards and be like, okay, I have black and red and blue look like they're really good, but blue doesn't have any goblins. Black and red has a bunch of goblins. I'm going to lean kind of black-red goblins, and maybe I'll splash a little bit of blue here and there. Perfect. Great way to look at it. Next up, we're going to talk about Lorwyn mechanics. So, for the most part, there's a lot of returning mechanics. There might be one mechanic that's actually new, if I remember right, but there's a lot of returning mechanics. So let's talk through a good chunk of them and the ones that you're going to see the most. First off, Vivid. Vivid is just basically saying, hey, how many colors are represented on your board aside from lands, because lands are colorless, they don't count. This ability does something that many times or deals that much damage for how many colors are represented on your board. It's very simple. Might not seem too clear, but we'll see once we get into the cards exactly what I'm talking about. Next up, we have Blight. Blight just says, hey, you can get this cool thing by activating an ability or casting a card, but you need to put some amount of -1 counters on your creatures. So if you're casting the card, they're on your creatures. That's kind of what Blight is. Seems like on the surface, ooh, that's really bad. Why would I ever want to do that? There's a lot of good payoffs, and there's a lot of really good cards that will take away counters off of creatures and give you some sort of effect. So hold up. Let's look at the cards before we start writing off Blight. Then we have Behold. This is something that we saw in Dragonstorm. Basically, You cast a card and it says, behold a creature, behold an elf, right? So you just go, hey, here's my elf. Cool. You put it down. Now, there are some cards in Lorwyn that say, behold an elf in our example, and exile it. And then something happens on the card and you bring that exile card into play. All you're going to do there is just put it underneath the card that beheld and exiled that card. Cool. Kindred. Kindred you're going to see on enchantments, and I think there's maybe 1 or 2 instants and sorceries that have the Kindred enchantment goblin. Basically what that means is that spell counts for that type. So Kindred enchantment goblin means this is an enchantment that is also counts as a goblin creature. Not creature, but as a goblin type. Okay? That's all that Kindred means. Next up, Convoke. Tap your creatures, help you pay for spells. There's a lot of things that do that. I think actually in blue, potentially? So yeah, Convoke is really strong, especially if you have a big board state or you're just trying to get out that big beater that is going to change the tide of the game. Sure, I'll tap 2 creatures in order to cast them quicker. And then Evoke. Evoke is just a smaller, cheaper casting cost for a card, but once it comes into play, you get your ETB effect, your enter the battlefield effect, and then it goes to the graveyard. Now, that might seem like, oh, why would I want that? Well, depending on how you cast some of these cards, the Evoke will get you the ETB effect plus more. Or, if you have ways to get it out of the graveyard, things like that will really kind of make Evoke kind of tick way quicker. And usually those effects that you're going to get are pretty good. We're talking like a discount from the regular casting cost being 6 all the way down to 2. Now, let's jump into it. We have cards. So, first up, we have our very first black card, the Iron Shield Elf. So, it is 1 in a black, and basically, discard a card, and this creature gets indestructible until end of turn. Tap it. I think that's a more than fine card. It's not anything incredible, but the fact that you can just discard a card and give it indestructible, and it's a 3/1 when it comes in, so it might be a really good blocker for you or something like that where you can utilize it in that way, and it gives you a good payoff, right? Iron Shield Elf. And next up, we have Champion of the Weird. So there's a champion cycle in here for all the colors. You'll kind of see as we go through, but Champion of the Weird is 3 in a black, and as an additional cost to cast the spell, you behold a goblin and exile it, slide it under the card, and then you can pay 1 and blight 2, put 2 -1, -1 counters on a creature, and target opponent blights 2, and you can activate this as a sorcery. So this is a really good way if you have big creatures, like looking at our Champion of the Weird here, he's a 5/5. You can activate that twice, and yeah, change your Champion of the Weird to a 1/1, but now your opponent has to blight 2 times, so blight 4. Maybe that clears out a good chunk of their board, right? Or maybe it takes one of their big guys and really knocks it down. When this creature leaves the battlefield, return the exiled card to the owner's hand. Sweet. Really good card. I think it's a little bit situational, but feels like a interesting type of spot removal type of thing. So Champion the Weird, be on the lookout for that guy. Now, Blight Rot. This is a sweet removal card, especially for pre-release. 2 and a black, and you put 4 -1, -1 counters on target creature. 9 times out of 10, you're using it as removal, but with some of the cards that you have, you can actually put it on your creatures and get huge benefits off of it. So, sweet card, sweet removal. Gonna be a pain. Morning Song Aria, 1 black. Players can't draw cards or gain life. I think that's really the spot that is going to, the gain life spot is going to be the part that is really critical in pre-release. The second part of this card, so at the beginning of each player's draw step, you lose 3 life, search your library for a card, put it into their hand. This card is going to be insane in Commander, where you can make it so people can't search, or if they do search, they get hurt, or whatever. But in pre-release, the second part is really only an upside for you if you're ahead in the game. But the first part, stopping your opponent from gaining life, maybe, right at the end when they're starting to turn it around and that life might be enough to keep them alive. I think you can kind of play it there. It's a situational card. Maybe you sideboard it, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's a good spot for it, and the decks that build it will know exactly that they need that card. Next up, Dawn Hand Eulogist. And this is 3-1, and it has Menace. When it enters, mill 3. And if there's an elf in your graveyard, each opponent loses 2 life, you gain 2 life. And it's a 3-3. As a common card, I think that's a sweet card. There's a little bit of a graveyard deck that you could do in here, in this set. But the elf decks are kind of bonkers. I think there's a lot of support for elves, and it doesn't seem like it directly on the surface, but once you get all those cards together, yeah, it's real good. And there's cards that return elves from the graveyard too. So, sweet card. Barbed Bloodletter, 1 and a black, and this is going to be an artifact equipment, and it has flash, and then when it enters, you attach it to a creature you control, and it gains Wither until the end, and then gives you +1/+2. So we didn't talk about this in mechanics, but what is Wither? So basically, when a creature deals damage to another creature, that other creature gets that many -1/-1 counters put on it. So this is kind of like a weird spot removal also, where either they have to block and kill their creature, or they don't block and they take the damage. Either way, you're kind of getting a really good payoff there. Now, obviously, the Wither only is there for the turn that it enters, but still, it could definitely help you out in a tight spot. Now, this card, and unfortunately, my site doesn't really have the other version, but this is actually going to be the chase card in the set. So Bitter Bloom Bearer. So black, flash, flying. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life, and you create a 1/1 blue-black fairy creature token with flying. Yeah, I mean, sweet card. Pay 1 life, get a creature, and then that doesn't include the additional stuff that you're going to play. So flying, it comes with evasion baked in, and a flash, you can play it at the end of your opponent's turn, get it on your battlefield, and instantly have a trigger at the start of your turn. Bitter Bloom Bearer, sweet card. Shimmer Creeper, 4 and a black, so Menace, and then here we have our Vivid ability. When this creature enters, each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of colors among permanents you control. And it's a 3/5. I think it seems like a pretty good card. At max, what you're going to get is 5 off of this. But I think in pre-release, taking away somebody's life for 5, just off of an ability, not even an attack, can be very good. Very good. And it has Menace, so once again, more evasion for you. Darkness Descends, 2 black, put 2 -1/-1 counters on each creature. I think this is really good if you have a deck that wants those -1/-1 counters and you want to go and use them for good, right? Or you have ways to just get rid of those counters, but your opponent might not. Seems like a board-wide removal card that doesn't sound or seem scary. Let's say that. It seems scary on the face of it, but is going to be a super sweet card. Bloodline Bidding, 6 black, convoke, so you can tap your creatures to help pay for it, and choose a creature type. Return all creatures of that chosen type from the graveyard to the battlefield. So good. So good. Imagine having, like we said, elf deck, right? You discard a bunch of, or you mill elves into your graveyard. Oh no, here's a bloodline bidding. Here, they all come back. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm going to swing in. Are you dead? GG. Great card. Gut Splitter Gang. 3 black. At the beginning of your main phase, you may blight 2, so put -1/-1 counter on your creatures. 2 in this case, because it has the 2 after it. If you don't, you lose 3 life. Great. The cool thing about this, the Gut Splitter Gang has 6/6 on it, so you could use it to hold some of those -1/-1 counters for a minute, and then take them off through various other options. Or if you have creatures that want those -1/-1 counters to do other stuff with them, you can throw them on there. This is going to be something I'm going to keep saying throughout the video. Maybe I'll even just cut it out, because you will just know that that's what it does. Auntie's Sentence. 1 and a black. Choose 1. Target opponent reveals their hand, and you choose a non-land permanent card from it. That player discards that card, so Thoughtseize. Or you get, target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn. So a little short, tiny, itty bitty removal, or let me see your card. Uh-oh, don't want to deal with that. Let me get rid of that card. Let me see your hand. Get rid of the card. You know what I mean. Gnarlbark Elm. 2 and a black. When this creature enters, puts 2 -1/-1 counters on it. And then, here we go. 2 and a black. Remove 2 counters from this creature. Target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn. So you're trading your counters in for spot removal. Great. Yeah, it costs 3. It's a little bit of a pain, but I don't think that should steer you away from actually wanting to play this card. Grave Shifter, and I didn't scroll down on it. 3 and a black. It's a changeling, which means it's just every creature type, so this can go into any deck that has black. When this creature enters, you may return target creature from your graveyard to your hand, and it's a 2/2. Sweet card. Sweet card. So it's going to help you with that typo and just get you anything back to your hand. Great. Love it. Unbury. 1 and a black. It's an instant. You choose 1, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand, or, this is a sweet one, return 2 target creature cards that share a creature type from your graveyard to your hand. So good. So good. Unbury. Sweet card. Nameless Inversion. 1 and a black. Changeling. And here you go. You have our Kindred instant Shapeshifter. So, like we said, this instant card, while it's being cast, it counts as every creature type. And then target creature gets +3, -3, and loses all creature types until end of turn. I think this is a cool way to buff up some of your really big toughness guys that are maybe swinging in. Or this is also a interesting way to kind of take care of an opponent's creature in a roundabout. Yeah, it gains more power, but its health goes to 0. Sorry about that. Really interesting card. Kind of situational, but it's going to get the job done when you need it, right? And 4/2. Great card. Wretch. Okay, that's a weird mouthfeel. 2 and a black. And when this creature dies, if it's had a -1/-1 counter on it, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control, and it loses all abilities. So, sweet little way you can dump a -1/-1 counter on it and bring it back to the battlefield and get it to go again, right? It's like reverse persist. Twilight Diviner. 2 and a black. When it enters, surveil 2. And whenever 1 or more other creatures you control enter, if they entered or were cast from the graveyard, create a token that's a copy of one of them. And this happens once each turn. I think if you have an interesting little engine to kind of go, or the Wretched Wretch, I mean, that thing comes in and you create a copy of it. Yeah, it's a great card. And actually, it doesn't say that it has to be a token creature. So with the Wretched, you might be able to just infinitely get it back. No, no, because it loses abilities before it hits the graveyard or hits the battlefield. I think you're good there, but still, you'd still end up getting a copy of it. Moonshadow is a black menace. When it enters, you get 6 -1/-1 counters on it. It's a 7/7, kind of crazy for a 1 cost. And whenever you put one or more permanent card, whenever one or more permanent cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere, if this creature has a -1/-1 counter on it, remove a -1/-1 counter on it. So milling would be sweet. Surveil in this deck would be really cool. Little itty bitty tiny creatures that you're just chump blocking things with, insane. And then all of a sudden you have a 1-drop 7/7 with menace. That's bonkers. And sorry about that. What you can do is you can use Moonshadow to dump some of those blight counters onto, right? Because things are going to keep going into the graveyard and dying if you have that type of deck. So why not use Moonshadow as kind of, hey, can you hang on to these? Oh, whoops, things died. All right, darn. You don't need to hang on to them anymore. Sweet. Now we have Gloom Ripper, 3 black. This is a cool little card. Cool little removal card. When this creature enters, target creature gets +X/+O until end of turn. An opponent's creature gets a -O/-X until end of turn, where X is the number of elves you control and are in your graveyard. So there's a chance in an elf deck you could have a huge number on this and just decimate something. It's going to be a very good card in those elf decks. Taster of Wares, 2 and a black. When it enters, target opponent reveals X cards from their hand, where X is the number of goblins you control. Cool little goblin card. Choose one of them. That player exiles it. If it's an instant or sorcery, you may cast it for as long as you control the Taster of Wares, and mana of any type can be used to cast it. Cool. Scarblade's Malice. So this is kind of funny because the artwork looks like it's flipping you off using its nose, right? Just my random thought the first time I saw it. But costs 1 black. Target creature you control gains Death Touch and Lifelink until the end of turn. And when that creature dies this turn, create a 2/2 black and green elf creature token. Yeah. Okay, sweet. Like it. A cool way of, hey, my guy's going to die anyways, but I won't be able to kill yours. Here we go. Trade. And then you get something out of it. Creekwood Safe Right, 1 and a black. This creature enters with 3 -1/-1 counters on it at the beginning of your end step. If there's an elf card in your graveyard, this creature has a -1/-1 on it, remove 1. And it's a 5/5. Comes in as a 2/2 for 2 and has the chance to become a 5/5. Yeah, and especially at the end of that turn, you have the possibility for it to become a 3/3. Like, card is really good. Not worried about those -1/-1 counters at all. And our last black card, Bog Slither's Embrace. 1 and a black. As an additional cost to cast this spell, blight 1 or pay 3. You exile a target creature, right? This card's super good. Like, this card feels super good. Like, it might see play in like certain formats because just a 2 cost to put a -1/-1 counter on my stuff and then exile that creature all day. I'm not even worried about it. Next up, we're diving into blue. So blue has Glimmermite and 2 and a blue, flash flying. When this creature enters, choose one, tap target creature, untap target creature. I just think it's a really good card. Possibility to attack with the creature. Somebody goes, oh, good, the big creature's out of the way. I'm going to attack. Flash this in, untap target creature, block, dead. Sweet. Unexpected assistance, 3 blue, convoke, draw 3 cards, and then discard a card. Not going to be that hard to get it to, be blue, draw 3, right? Rime Chill. 6 and a blue. And it has Vivid for it costing that much less, depending on how many colors you have. Tap up to 2 target creatures, then put a stun counter on each of them, and then you draw a card. Yeah, very possible to cast it for 2. I mean, it's probably more likely that you're casting it for 4, but putting 2 stun counters, or putting a stun counter on 2 creatures and drawing a card for 4, I'll take it all day. Glenalendra's Answer, 2 in blue. So this card is really interesting because I think it's very situational. It is possible it could work in pre-release, but it's more of a commander card. Basically, it can't be countered, and what you do is you wait for a bunch of spells to go on the stack, and a bunch of maybe triggered abilities. Talking a bunch, we're saying like 2 or 3, right? And then you counter all spells that your opponents control, and all abilities your opponents control. And then you create a 1/1 blue-black flying creature for each thing that was countered. Yeah, it seems very good. I think there's maybe a situation in pre-release where you really want to get something out, so you go ahead and just throw it on the board, and then use this to protect it. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's super situational. The floor seems real low, but the ceiling could also be kind of high. Thirst for Identity, 2 and a blue, draw 3 cards, then discard 2, unless you discard a creature. So draw 3 cards, discard a creature. Works with that black deck that kind of wants things in the graveyard. Harmonized Crescendo, 4 blue, convoke. Choose a creature type, draw a card for each permanent you control of that type. Sweet card. Does what it says. Champions of the Shoal. So, same thing with Champions of the Weird, right? We're in that cycle. 3 and a blue as an additional cast, or casting cost. Behold a Merfolk, exile it. When this creature enters or becomes tapped, tap up to 1 target creature and put a stun counter on it. Bonkers. When this creature leaves the battlefield, return that exiled card. It's a 4/6. So, yeah, I think Champion of the Shoal is going to be an absolute beater. Then Disruptor of Currents, 3 blue, flash, convoke. When it enters, return up to 1 target non-land creature to an owner's hand. I think this isn't a fancy ability or anything, but I put it in here because the flash and the convoke make it sneakily better than it seems. Glenalendra's Guardian, 2 and a blue, flash, flying. When it enters, put a -1/-1 counter on it. And then here's another one of our utility boys. 1 and a blue, remove a counter from this creature. Counter targets non-creature spell. Its controller draws a card. So your opponent's going to draw a card, but you get to stop that board wipe or removal or whatever might have been happening. And you can put more counters on it too. Shine Striker, 4 blue, flying, vivid, for drawing cards. And then 3/3. I think this card only goes in a deck that you're playing 4 or 5 colors in. I think that's the only place that this deck can come into, or at least shows 4 or 5 colors, right? We'll talk about that way later. Rimfire Torque, 1 and a blue, As it enters, you choose a creature type. When a permanent of that type enters, put a charge counter on this. Tap, remove 3 charge counters from it, and then you copy your next instant or sorcery. Copying instants and sorceries is an absolute banger. Yeah, Rimfire Torque should 100% be a card that you look into, especially typal, but like we said, this pre-release is going to be pretty typal. Mirror Form, 4 blue blue. Each non-land permanent you control becomes a copy of target non-aura permanent. Permanently. Permanently. It's not end of turn. Keep that in mind. This just becomes whatever you choose. This is going to be a closer. It's going to be a beater, something that you cast right at the end and just clean house. Pestered Wellguard, 3 and a blue. When it becomes tapped, you create Fairy token with flying, and it's a 3/2. I think just the ability to tap it and get a creature, really good. And I think blue also has a handful of ways to untap it, retap it, do things like that. So I'm feeling kind of good about this card. Noggle the Mind, 1 and a blue, and then Flash, an enchanted creature, loses all abilities and is a colorless Noggle with base power and toughness of 1/1. This is one of those enchantments that you're going to want to remove, but if you get it, you also might really want to play it, because this is going to shut down something that's just going to beat house on you. Wander Wine Farewell, 5 blue blue, Convoke. Return 1 or 2 target non-land permanents to their owner's hand. Then if you control a merfolk, I forgot merfolk, create a 1/1 merfolk creature token for each permanent returned to its owner's hand this way. Just a cool way to, get a high cost card, but knock it down, and then kind of generate at least 1 to 2 more things on your board with it, and deal with some problems at least for a turn or 2. Lofty Dreams, 3 blue blue, Convoke. When this aura enters, draw a card. An enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and flying until end of turn. Threw this in here because, hopefully you're casting it for very cheap. And if you cast it for cheap, this is kind of a sweet card. You draw a card, you buff up a creature, and it gets evasion. Sweet. Blossom Bind, 1 and a blue. This aura enters. When it enters, tap enchanted creature. Enchanted creature can't be untapped and it can't have counters put on it. So something that's maybe generating a lot of value, getting those -1/-1 counters for your opponent, you can now take care of that and take care of putting counters on it. And it just can't be untapped. Like, you can't target it to untap it with like the flash creature that we had very beginning. Doesn't work, because you just can't untap it. Lockmare, 1 and a blue. When it enters, you put 3 -1/-1 counters on it, and 1 and a blue, remove a counter, draw a card. Sweet. 2 and a blue, remove 2 counters from this creature, tap a creature, put a stun counter on it. Also sweet. And it's a 4/5. Lockmare is going to be a freaking engine for Blight. Swat Away, 2 blue blue. It costs 2 less if you if a creature is attacking you, and then the owner of target spell or creature puts it on their choice of top or bottom of their library, right? So it's a good way to save something that might be removed for you, which it doesn't cost 2 less then. But if they're attacking you with something that has a bunch of +1/+1 counters on it, then it only costs 2, and you can take care of that. Run Away Together, 1 and a blue. Choose 2 target creatures controlled by different players. Return those creatures to their owner's hand. So my thought on this is, you target something that you want to deal with on your opponent's board, and then for you target something that you want an additional ETB effect on. Sweet. Temporal Cleansing is our last card in blue. 3 in a blue, Convoke. The owner of target non-land permanent puts it into their library second from the top or on the bottom. So, yeah, that just seems good. Another way to deal with a card, at least temporarily. So, cool. Now we are going to dive into green. And first card for green is Glintleaf's Embrace. 2 in a green, flash. When this aura enters, enchanted creature gains trample and indestructible until end of turn. That's what I care about, right? That seems insane. Either you're damaging and you're getting through, or maybe you're just saving your creature because it's really important to your game plan. And then it gets +2/+0. Mutable Explorer. 2 in a green. Changeling. When this creature enters, create a tapped Mutavault token. That alone is just insane. And then, hey, you have potential using that blue card that we just talked about. Bounce that back to your hand, play it again. Sweet. Lissalana Dignitary. Oh. 1 in a green, Beholden Elf, or pay 2 as an additional cost. And then tap, add 2 green mana. Activate only if there's an elf card in your graveyard, which if you're running an elf deck, there will be, and the card's sweet. I think it's really, really good value. Really good value, and jumps you ahead on the mana curve. Formidable Speaker. 2 and a green. This card is sweet. It sounded like this. Yeah, I was going to say this is actually the card that I think the last world champion, not the last one, might be 2 ago. I don't know. It's the newest world champion card. When this creature enters, you may discard a card. If you do, search your library for a creature card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. You go and you just get any creature card you want. Show your opponent, put it in your hand. Crazy card. 1 tap, untap another target permanent. Card's bonkers. Card is so good. Just a 3 mana tutor any creature and then just untap any permanent, and it's a 2/4. Insane. Play it. Moon Vigil Adherence. 2 green trample. This creature gets +1/+1 for each creature you control and each creature in your graveyard. The card is a house. Play it. You could easily get, like, I don't know, like a 7/7 or a 10/10. Like, it'll have to either be dealt with. English is hard. Or you're just going to win the game off of this card. Champion of the Perfect. 3 in a green. Beholden Elf. Then you exile it. And whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. Insane. And when this creature leaves the battlefield, return it to its owner's hand. It's a 6/6 for 4, if nothing else. 6/6 for 4 if you exile a creature temporarily, for nothing else. But, like, that's huge. Wildvine Pummeler. 6 and a green. It has the Vivid on it for its casting cost. And then besides that, it's Reach Tramples 6/5. Yeah, so you have potential to actually bring this in for 2. Wild. Huge. Aurora Awakener. 6 and a green. Trample, and it has Vivid on it for you reveal the top cards of your library until you reveal X permanents, where X is the number of colors among permanents you control. Cool. If any number of those put any number of those permanents onto the battlefield, then put the rest of the revealed cards onto the bottom of your library. Another sweet card that is a 6 cost or is a 7 cost, but you get massive value off of it. Like, you're getting permanents, and most of your cards in a pre-release deck are permanents because you need to do stuff. Yeah, you'll have interaction, but permanents. It's a good card. Pummeler for hire, 4 and a green, Vigilance Reach, Ward 2. Everybody hates Ward. Nobody ever pays the cost. So this stays on the battlefield forever when you cast it. When this creature enters, you gain X life, where X is the greatest power among giants you control. Giants. That's another one that I forgot. There we go. I think that's all of them at the beginning of the video. So, yeah. Little life gain there. But if nothing else, you get 5 cost, Vigilance Reach, 4/4, Ward 2. Blossoming Defense, it's just a green. This is those combat tricks that I think are so good. You just get out ahead of your opponent and frustrate them instantly. If you put 1 or 2 early on a creature that gets through, target creature you control gets +2/+2 and hexproof until end of turn. Sweet. Spry and Mighty, 4 and a green. Choose 2 creatures you control. You draw X cards, and the chosen creatures get +X/+X and trample until end of turn, where X is the difference between the chosen creature's power. So you choose maybe a guy with 1 and a guy with 4. X becomes 3. Selfless Safe Right, 3 green flash, Convoke. And when it enters, you get to choose a creature type, and permanents of that type gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. And it's a 4/2. The cool thing about this is, even though it's an elf warrior, it works for any creature type. That's really sweet. Prismatic Undercurrents, 3 and a green, and has Vivid. When it enters, search your library for up to X basics, where X is the number of colors among permanents you control. Reveal those cards and put them into your hand, and then you get to play an additional land on each of your turns. I think this card can be an insane, like, thinning your deck and just getting lands into your hand, right? I might even play it on turn 4, just because I probably at least have 2, maybe 3 colors on board, so get 3 lands out of my graveyard, or out of my library for 4. Sweet. Tend the Sprigs, 2 and a green. Search your library for a basic land, put it on the battlefield tapped, and shuffle. Then, if you control 7 or more lands and or tree folk, create a 3/4 green tree folk creature token with reach. I don't think you're going to hit the tree folk thing in pre-release, but lands, super easy, super possible. Unforgiving Aim, so 2 and a green. And choose 1. Destroy creature with flying, destroy enchantment, or create a 2/2 token. Good card. Very green, very baseline green. We have one of these in almost every set, but I just wanted to include it because regardless of that, it's still good. Vinebred Brawler, 2 and a green. This creature must be blocked if able, and whenever this creature attacks, another target elf gets +2/+1 until end of turn, and it's a 4/2. So it has to be blocked, but it doesn't have to attack. Keep that in mind. 2 very different things. Thought Weft Charge, 1 and a green. This is another one of those. This is the haste magic that I played in the pre-release at Final Fantasy. Target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn, and if a creature entered the battlefield under your control this turn, draw a card. If you have the ability to play 2 of these, like, that's 6 damage and you're drawing 2 cards. That, so good. I'm not saying that the probability is high on you having 2 of these and playing them all on your turn, but it's such a good card. Virulent Emissary for a green, and this is included. It's a very basic one because Death Touch, and whenever another creature controls, you gain 1 life, and it's 1/1. But just that powerful 1 drop of Death Touch, right? And being a life gain engine. Just super good card, especially in pre-release. Sapling Nursery, 6 green. Affinity for forests. The more forests you have, the cheaper this costs. Landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, create a 3/4 green tree folk token with reach. Sweet. And then you can pay 1 and a green, exile this enchantment. Tree folk and forests you control gain indestructible until end of turn. If you can get this going in pre-release, I think you just you run the table. But if you can't get it working, it's definitely a fun commander card, like 100%. Dundulin Weaver. I don't know why I couldn't read Weaver there for a second. But 1 and a green, this creature enters. And if you control 3 or more creatures, return target permanent from your graveyard to your hand. Sweet. Morkant's Eyes. 1 and a green. At the beginning of your upkeep, you surveil 1. So sweet for those graveyard decks. And then for 4 green, sacrifice this. Create X 2/2 elf tokens. Where X is the number of elves in your graveyard. Yeah, solid elf card. Great Forest Druid, 1 and a green, taps for 1 mana of any color, and it's a 0/4. I don't care if you're playing tree folks or anything like that. This card's kind of sweet. I mean, might even be a fun little card just to like splash for, right? To fix your mana for any of your other colors, or just give you another bit of mana to play. Midnight Tilling, 1 and a green, mill 4. Then you may return a permanent card from among them to your hand. So super cool. Definitely good for whatever card that was that we had talked about earlier that cares about, putting things into your graveyard. Awesome. Shimmer Wild's Growth, 1 and a green. This, when it enters, you choose a color. The land is of that chosen color that it's enchanted to. An enchanted land is tapped for mana. Its controller adds 1 additional mana of the chosen color. So this is a cool way of, if you're trying to look for black and you only have green, you cast this, you put it on one of your forests, you say black. Cool, now you have black. You fixed your mana. Good card, throw it in. Brisbane Battler is our last green card. 1 and a green, trample, ward 2. It enters with 5 -1/-1 counters on it, and whenever another creature you control enters while this creature has -1/-1, you take 1 off. It's a 6/6 for 2. Keep in mind that all of these don't just say when a creature enters. It doesn't say anything about it being cast. So creating tokens helps this. Bouncing like flicker effects helps this. Super good. Super good. Next, we're going to dive into white and then red. And then we have just quick of the multicolor, colorless and lands. But white and red are going to be our 2 biggest columns that we have left. Let's go. So next up we have Wanderbrine Trapper. It is your white 1-drop. And for 1 and tap this, tap another untapped creature and tap target creature an opponent controls. This kind of reminds me of like the Final Fantasy Coral, which was a pain in my ass when I was playing in the pre-release, but I'm a lot higher on these cards than I used to be. I think you just play this and hopefully you have at least 2 this and another creature in order to lock down that problem. Keep Out, 1 and a white. You choose 1. It deals 4 damage to target tap creature or destroy target enchantment. Either of those is going to be super good in pre-release. Adept Water Shaper, 2 and a white. Other creatures you control have indestructible. Just a good card. Like, force everybody else to deal with this before they deal with the problems. Protective Response, 2 and a white. Convoke and destroy target attacking or blocking creature. This card I think is going to be really good, especially like the whole like I'm leaving 1 white open. Oh no, what does he have? Got you. Tap my creatures. There you go. Encumbered Regery, 1 and a white. It enters with 3 -1s on it, and whenever it becomes tapped, you get to remove one if it has it on it. And it's 5/4. Sweet, just a solid card, and once again gives us another way to deal with those -1 counters. Riverguard's Reflexes, 1 and a white. This is another one of my favorite little combat tricky stupid things, which maybe that's just me, I don't know. But target creature gets +2/+2 and gains first strike until end of turn, and you untap it. Meander's Guide, 2 and a white. Whenever it attacks, you may tap and untap merfolk you control. If you do, return target creature card, but mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So, sweet little Reanimator, Sun Titan style effect. Kithkeeper, 6 and a white, and this has Vivid for you create Kithkin tokens equal to the number of colors you have for your permanents when it enters. And then tap 3 untapped creatures you control, and this creature gets +3/+0 and gains flying. So, cool little way to, it kind of fuels its own thing to then attack as a 6/3 with flying. I think this one's going to be a little bit of a house if you can get it out. Now, it does cost 7. I don't know. We'll see. I would have liked to see maybe Convoke or Vivid 2X on here. I'm not sure. Just a way to make it a little bit cheaper, but I still think it's going to be a really good card. Reluctant Dawnguard. Uh 2 and a white. This creature enters with 2 -1/-1 counters on it, and when another creature enters, you get to remove one, and it's a 4/4. Once again, another stockpile for your blight. Cool. Slumbering Walker, 3 white. When it enters, you put 2 -1/-1 counters on it. At the beginning of your end step, you may remove one from this creature. When you do, return target creature card with power 2 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield. Yeah, so you can do that. A little, once again, Reanimator effect for you, and just goes right onto the battlefield. 4/7, yeah, good way to deal with all those counters. And you can keep chump blocking with your low power creature and just bring it back, chump block, bring it back, chump block, bring it back. Great. Pyretic Strike. Yeah, we'll go with that. 2 and a white. As an additional cost, you blight 2. And then you get to choose one. If the additional cost was paid, you can choose both. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. Destroy target creature with mana value 3 or greater. Yeah, I think this card's going to be really good, especially at a 3 cost, and being able to blight 2 with, now, as you've seen most of the set, so many ways to just use those blight counters, well, not blight counters, but -1/-1 counters for your benefit. Yeah, I think it's good. Liminal Hold, 3 and a white. When it enters, exile up to 1 target non-land permanent an opponent controls until this enchantment leaves the battlefield. You gain 2 life. I feel like this is a little expensive compared to other things like that, but it does come in at the common slot, so maybe that gave it an additional colorless on it. So, yeah. Ajani Outland Chaperone, 1 white. So you get to create Kithkin tokens with his +1. And yes, this is our first Planeswalker. That's what they're called. And then -2, you can deal 4 damage to a tap creature, but the -8, look at the top X cards where X is your life total. You may put any number of non-land permanents with mana value 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield, then shuffle. I saw this actually go off in the Loading Ready Run pre-release. Yeah, they -8, you call it a day. That's basically what ends up happening. Here's the cool little cute art. Oh, look at him. What a big kitty. But next up, champion of the Clackchan. Clackchan. Clachan. Something. Not doing good in white, am I? 3 and a white flash. As an additional cost to cast this spell, behold a Kithkin, exile it. Kithkins you control get +1/+1. When this creature leaves the battlefield, return the exiled creature. Yeah, okay. Um, I think it's really good. I think it's a very decent card. The behold cost, not worried about it. It doesn't get -1/-1 counters on it. 4 cost for 4/5. Sweet. I'm on board. Personify 1 and a white, exile target creature you control, then return that creature to the battlefield under its owner's control, and then you create a 1/1 shapeshifter in addition to that. Cool little blink effect. We've seen all the ETBs. I've talked about a couple cards that maybe you want to, pop in and out again. Yeah, personify. Winnowing, 4 and white, convoke. And for each player, you choose a creature that player controls. Then each player sacrifices all other creatures they control that don't share a creature type with that chosen creature they control. I think this could go really bad in pre-release, but this could also win the game for you. I think if you pull this card off, you play it. Reese, the Evermore, 1 and a white flash. When he enters, another target creature you control gains persist. So when it dies, it comes back to the battlefield with a -1/-1 counter on it. And then you can pay 1 and tap, remove any number of counters from target creature you control. Activate only as a sorcery. So if for some reason you're having trouble getting your -1/-1 counters off, whether, I don't know, whatever it might be, you don't have enough cards that deal with it, or you're gaining them quicker than anything else, you can pop this and deal with all the counters. Super good. And finally, our last white card, Kin Binding, 3 white. Creatures you control get +X/+X, where X is the number of creatures that entered the battlefield under your control this turn. That is a continual effect. That's not just when it enters. That is a continual effect. So each turn you can get +X/+X. So keep that in mind. On top of that, at the beginning of combat on your turn, create a 1/1 green-white Kithkin creature. So it creates its own engine too. So awesome little pile that white gave us. Now, finally, last color. Let's dive into red. Red, what do you have for us? Well, I have a Squawk Roaster, 3 and a red, double strike, and has Vivid that decides Squawk Roaster's power. And yeah, I think if you're playing a deck that has a good chance to get a handful of different colors, 3 or more, let's say, I think Squawk Roaster goes into your deck. If you don't, maybe not. But the double strike is pretty sweet. Colorless Zealot, 5 and a red. When this creature enters, exile the top card of your library. You may play that until your next turn, and it has basic land cycling for 1 and a red. It's a 6/5. I think the ability to pull out a card that you can play until the end of your next turn, sweet. Or if it's just dead in your hand and you need lands, the basic land cycle is gonna work awesome for you. Brambleback Brute. Oh, this frickin' card. 2 and a red. This creature enters with 2 -1/-1 counters on it. And then you, for 1 and a red, remove a counter from this creature. The target, then the ability, so that was the cost, right? Then target creature can't block this turn. Sweet. And it's a 4/5. So yeah, I don't know. This card is insane for red. If you get this, you might be leaning red. Sour Bread Auntie 2 red red. When this creature enters, you may blight 2. If you do, create 2 1/1 goblin tokens. I think it's a 4/3 that has the potential to create 2 goblin tokens for you. Seems sweet to fill up your board more and more and more. This set especially wants typal and many creatures. Impolite Entrance for a red. Target creature gains trample, haste, draw a card. It's like red opt, right? Sweet. Bone Club Berserker, 3 in a red. This creature gets +2/+0 for each other goblin you control. If you are running goblins, yes, please. It's going to be sweet. Collective Inferno, 3 red red. Convoke. When it enters, choose a creature type. Double all damage that sources you control of that type would deal. Super good, super cheap way to get doubling power out. In typal decks and Commander, this is going to be a friggin' house. Lasting Tarfire, 1 and a red. At the beginning of each end step, if you put a counter on a creature this turn, this enchantment deals 2 damage to each opponent. Sweet card, especially with Blight, you're going to be doing it. Incredible. Burning Curiosity, 2 in a red. As an additional cost, you get to Blight 1. Exile the top 2 cards of your library. If this spell's additional cost was paid, exile the top 3 instead. And you can play those until the end of your next turn. I don't think this is a big ask. This is going to be really sweet, and it gives you, your secondary hand until the end of your next turn. Spine Rock Tyrant, 3 red red flying Wither, which we had talked about way in the beginning of this video, over an hour ago now. When you cast an instant or sorcery spell with a single target, go ahead, copy it. If you do, those spells gain Wither. You may choose new targets for that copy. This card's sweet. I think if you have a lot of burn spells and target spells where you can just, hit creatures and that, this is going to be awesome. And also, like, targeting people's lives, right? If you can do 3 damage to their life, and then also this is out, and you get to copy it, sweet. Baldwyr Aggressor. Baldwyr Aggressor. What am I doing? Oh, man. Just can't read anymore. Too many cards. 3 red red double strike. Other giants you control have double strike. Now, if you're running a giant stack, I salute you. But if you are running a giant stack, you're gonna kill me if you have this. It's a sweet card. Reckless Ransacking, 1 and a red. And here we go. Here's another one of those sweet combat tricks. Target creature gets +3/+2 until end of turn, and you create a treasure token. Awesome. So it's basically cost a red. That's what I'm getting. Scoozback Scrounger, 1 and a red. At the beginning of your main phase, you can blight 1, and if you do, you get a treasure token. Once again, if we have ways to deal with the blight counters, nobody cares about blight. And it's basically free treasure tokens each turn. Yeah, super good. Champion of the Path, 3 in a red. As an additional cost, behold an elemental. You get to exile it. Whenever another elemental you control enters, it deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. Sweet card if you're running elementals. And then when this leaves the battlefield, you get the exile card back. And it's a 7/3. Yuck. Soul Immolation, 3 red red. As an additional cost, you get to blight X, and X can't be greater than the greatest toughness among creatures you control. Soul Immolation deals X damage to each opponent and each creature they control. Yo, with that dragon, you deal X times 2. That'd be sweet. This is insane. I love that. Hopefully, I get this and I can just do this to people. That'd be fun. Hexing Squelcher, 1 and a red. This card is, it's a thing. It's insane. It can't be countered. It has ward, pay 2 life. And then spells you control can't be countered. And other creatures you control have ward, pay 2 life. And it's a 2/2. Card's awesome. Play it. People will be terrified. They won't know how to deal with it. Trust me. Meek attack, the less powerful sneak attack. So 2 and a red, and then you get to pay 1 and a red, and you may put target creature card with total power and toughness 5 or less from your hand onto the battlefield. It gains haste, and then you sacrifice it at the next end step. Yeah, I think it's a good way to get out those small creatures that are going to make a big effect for you. But pre-release, it's probably fine. Commander, why aren't you playing sneak attack, right? Elder Auntie 2 and a red. When this creature enters, create a 1/1 goblin creature token. Probably didn't necessarily need to put this one in. But 3 cost, create 3/3 of power on your board. It's fine. It's standard. Sizzling Changeling 2 and a red. It's a changeling, so it's every creature type. And when it dies, exile the top card of your library. You may play it until your next turn. 3/2. Cool. String Slinger 2 and a red for 1 and a red. Tap and blight 1. You get this effect. This creature deals 2 damage to each opponent. Cool. It's a 3/3. So, like, I don't know. Seems good. If you have a place to just pile blight on and you can untap this guy somehow, yeah. Like, just ping the crap out of your opponent. Soulbright Seeker for a red as an additional cost. Behold an elemental. Or pay 2. And then for 1 target creature you control, or for a red, sorry, not 1, just 1 red. Target creature you control gains trample until end of turn. If this is the 3rd time you've used this ability this turn, add 4 mana. Yeah, I think if you have this out and you have 3 red, you just do it. You just do it 3 times to get an additional mana. Like, just makes sense. Endblaze Epiphany, X and a red. It deals X damage to target creature. When that creature dies this turn, exile a number of cards from the top of your library equal to its power. Then choose a card, exiled this way. Until your next turn, you may play it. I think it's sweet. A little board wipe, and then also a buff to your hand, right? Temporary buff to your hand. Giant Fall 1 and a red. Choose 1. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature and opponent controls, or destroy target artifact. And that was our last red card. Okay, awesome. So we've made it through the colors. I promise it's not going to be another hour and 15 minutes. Stick here with me. I swear we'll get through. But let's stop talking about getting through and do it. All right, popping on over to colorless cards. Dawn Blast Pennant. It's a 1-drop, and then you get to choose any of the tribes, or typal things. Yes, in the set. And whenever a permanent of that chosen type comes in, you gain 1 life. You can also pay 2, tap, and sacrifice this to return target card of chosen type from your graveyard to your hand. Sweet little reanimator for 3. Like, cool. Gathering Stone. It's a 4-drop. When it enters, you get to choose a creature type, and then spells of that chosen type cost 1 less to cast. And then when it enters, and at the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. If it's a card of chosen type, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. If you don't put the card into your hand, you may put it into your graveyard. And then, just so we're clear, you may also just leave it on top if you want. So it kind of has like, when it enters and at your upkeep, surveil. Kind of. Spring Leaf Drum for 1-drop. Tap. For tap, you tap an untapped creature you control. add 1 mana of any color. Cool little way for like mana fixing type of stuff. So, um, not the best, not the worst. There's places for it. Uh, Furdock Core for 3. The card comes in. It is a Kindred artifact shapeshifter, so it is a creature of any type. And then tap, add 1 mana of any color. Sweet. And then for 4, this artifact becomes a 4/4 artifact creature until end of turn. Sweet. Foraging Wickermaw for 2. When this creature enters, surveil 1. And then for 1 cost, add any mana of any color. This creature becomes that color until end of turn. Which seemed insane, except they put the line activate only once each turn, which is a bummer. Let me just filter all of my mana through this guy, but he can only be the last color I chose. Dang it. Changeling Wayfinder for 3. So it's every creature type, and then when it enters, you get to search for a basic, reveal it, put it into your hand. Yeah, fair enough. Chronicle of Victory is our last, not artifact, but colorless card. And this one's causing quite a stir because it's slightly fixed Vanquisher's banner. So for 6, you get to choose a creature type, and then creatures you control of that type get +2/+2 and first strike and trample. Whenever you cast a spell of chosen type, draw a card. Sweet. I think you play this if you end up pulling it in the pre-release, because if you can get it out, I think you just bully your opponent the rest of the game. Also, the ability just to draw a card, sweet, sweet. So that was colorless. Let's jump into hybrid mana. Now, a note that I want to make about hybrid mana. When talking about vivid, the hybrid mana counts as both types, right? So if you had a card that, in this case, was black and had the vivid ability for, making it cost less, let's say. Or let's say it was green and it had the vivid ability. You would get green from that card, black and red from the hybrid mana cards here. Both colors count even though you're only paying for one. Even if you say paid red for this guy across the board, they both count. Okay? So hybrid cards are actually really good with Vivid. But anyways, Eclipsed Bogart. When this creature enters, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a Goblin Swamp or Mountain from it, put it into your hand, and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. You're going to see this is also a cycle that they have put into the set, where you get to pick the type of the creature, and then the possibility to get one of 2 other types of lands if you wanted. So Eclipse Bogart, good card. Figure of Fable. This was the first card that they announced. I think really if you're playing this card, where you are going to want to go is all the way to the end, because protection from opponents just means you have free reign. They can't target it with abilities. They can't do anything. Basically, they have to board wipe in order to take care of this card. So as fast as possible as you can get this guy built up and bulked up, do it. Do it. Because, yeah, the third one is insane of just basically if you've already done the 2, so you created a scout, and then because it was a scout, you created a soldier, and now because it was a soldier, you turn it into an avatar. Its base power and toughness becomes a 7/8 in protection from each of your opponents. Yeah, sweet little card. Eclipsed Kithkin. So the same thing as that goblin. You get to look for a Kithkin, though, or a forest or plain. Put it into your hand. Deceit. Cool little card. So these cards are really interesting because here we go. We have our evoke ability, but depending on evoke or main casting cost, if you pay 2 blue or 2 black, you get one of those 2 things. So if the 2 blue was spent, you return 1 target non-land permanent to an owner's hand. If the 2 black was spent, target opponent reveals their hand, and then you get a non-land card to discard from it. Now, if you spent the full casting cost, the 4 and then the 2 hybrid mana here, and in any form or combination you spent at least 2 blue and at least 2 black, you get both abilities. This card's going to be sweet, and the additional other cards that we have coming up are also sweet. Eclipsed Elf, once again, that cycle that we have, but in Elf, Swamp, or Forest this time. Cure Roll, Attentive, first year, 1, and then hybrid, 2 hybrid of red-white. Tap 2 target creatures you control. Copy target ability you control. You may choose new targets. Sweet. Reaping Willow. So 1 and then 3 hybrid of white-black. Lifelink. Sweet. When it enters, you get 2 -1/-1 counters. And then for 1 and the hybrid black-white, remove 2 target or 2 counters from this creature. Return target creature card of mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Sweet. Vibrance is a really fun one. 3 and then 2 hybrid mana of red-green. If 2 red was spent, you deal 3 damage to any target. If 2 green was spent, you can go and search for a land, not a basic, a land, and you gain 2 life. It also has the evoke of 2 hybrid of red and green. Dream Harvest, 5 and 2 hybrid of blue or black. Each opponent exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile cards with a total mana value of 5 or greater this way. Until the end of turn, you may cast those cards without paying their mana cost. Cool little way to do this. I think you're probably not going to cast things here. But this does have an interesting effect of if your opponents put a card on the top of its library or close to the top of their library, you can use this to kind of exile the way down and go, yeah, I'm not going to cast anything. Keep those suckers in exile, please. Abigail, Eloquent, first year, 2 hybrid mana of white-black. This card is insane. Flying, first strike, lifelink. When it enters, up to 1 other target creature loses all abilities, and then you put a flying counter, a first strike counter, a lifelink counter on that creature. Wild card. That's so good. Tam, Mindful, first year, for 1 and 1 hybrid of green-blue. Each other creature you control has hexproof from each of its colors, and then tap, target creature you control becomes all colors until end of turn. Lorwyn Imperfect Naturalist, for 2 hybrid of black and green. When he enters, mill 4 cards, and you may put a creature or land card from among the mill onto the top of your library. So what we were talking about for the other one, the blue-black one. 2 and then 3 hybrid of black-green. Tap, discard a land, and then create a 1/1 worm creature token for each land in your graveyard. Then next we have our blue-red version of the goblin guy at the very beginning, except you choose an elemental, island, or mountain. And then Wistfulness, 3 and 2 hybrid, green-blue. When this creature enters, if 2 green was spent to cast it, exile target artifact or enchantment, opponent controls, cool. And if 2 blue was cast, draw 2 cards, then discard a card. Has evoke of 2 hybrid mana of green and blue, and it's a 6/5. And then finally, our last hybrid card is Emptiness, which was the big preview first card that they showed. It is 4 colorless and then 2 hybrid mana of white-black. If 2 white was spent to cast this, return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. And if 2 black was spent to cast this, then you put 3 -1/-1 counters on up to 1 target creature. Keep in mind that is not Blight. That is also your opponent's creatures. And then you can evoke for, once again, 2 hybrid mana of white black. So next up, we are going to dive into multicolor, and then we have lands. I'm talking, I don't know, maybe 10 or 11 cards left. So multicolor cards, let's get into it. Thoughtweft Lieutenant of green, white, and basically when this creature enters or another Kithkin, target creature you control gets +1/+1 and trample till end of turn. I think it's a cool little, like, end of turn buff type of thing. Sweet little basic 2-cost gold card. Irdu, I think. Carrier of Dawn, 3 white, flying lifelink. Creature spells you cast have Convoke. Insane. And then at the beginning of your first main phase, you can pay a black. If you do, transform it. And it becomes this big beefcake, flying lifelink. And then each other non-token creature you control has Persist. And then at the beginning of your first main phase, you may pay 1, and if you do, you can transform them. So, sweet. This is our first card that we've looked at that is like this. There's a couple of these guys, but yeah, I mean, this card's going to be very strong. Marilyn, Fey Ascendant, 2 black, green, blue. This card is insane, and if you end up playing in the pre-release and hit an elf mirror match or a fairy, but typically an elf mirror match, you're gonna bully them and you're gonna win. Okay, so flying 4/5, and whenever Marilyn or another elf or fairy you control enters, exile the top 2 cards of target opponent's library. Okay. Keep that in mind. Once each turn, you may cast a spell with mana value less than or equal to the number of elves and fairies you control from among the cards exiled by Marilyn this turn without paying its mana cost. So think of this. You can cast Marilyn, then you can cast another elf. That's 4 cards now you get to look at the top of your opponent's library. If they have an elf or a fairy, you cast that. And then you get 2 more cards to look at from the top of your opponent's library. Obviously, you can't cast because it says once per turn, but yeah, that right there is 6 cards off of your opponent's library. They just don't get back. It's so good. There could be an interesting little bully. I take your whole deck and you get to do nothing deck out of this in pre-release. I think I want to play something like that. Next up, we have Grub, Storied Matriarch, 2 and a black, and it has Menace, and when it enters or transforms, return up to 1 target goblin from your graveyard to your hand. Beginning of your main phase, you can pay red, transform it into Grub Notorious Ante, and Menace, whenever Grub attacks, you may blight 1. If you do, create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of the blighted creature, except it gets sacrificed at the end step. And then on the first main phase, you can play a black to transform it back into Grub. This card's insane. Goblin decks, it's going to be insane. I might actually put this card in my Goblin deck because, yeah, it's wild. Sig's Command, 1 white and blue. There is a cycle of command cards too. You get to choose 2. You create a token that's a copy of a merfolk you control. Target player control creatures target player controls gains lifelink. This guy. Target player draws a card and tap target creature and put a stun counter on it. Sweet. Brigad's Command, 1 and green white. Choose 2. Create a token that's a copy of a Kithkin. Target player creates a Kithkin token. Target creature you control gets +3/+3 until end of turn. Target creature you control fights target creature and opponent controls. Cool. Tristan's Command, 4 black, green. Choose 2 again. Copy target elf. Return 1 or 2 target permanent cards from your graveyard to your hand. Destroy target creature or enchantment. Creatures you control, target player controls, gets +3/+3 until end of turn. Untap them. Sweet. Raiding Schemes, 3 red, green. Very simple. Very simple. Each non-creature spell you cast has Conspire. What is Conspire? Tap 2 untapped creatures that share a color, and when you do, you get to copy a non-creature spell. Okay? That's it. That's it. Super strong, very basic. Then we have Oko, our flip planeswalker. Actually, at the beginning of your first main phase, you may pay 1 and you can transform it. But first off, +2. We'll call this his plus side, right? +2, up to 1 target creature gains all creature types, and then +1 target creature gets -2, -0 until end of turn. So then when you flip them at the beginning of your first main phase, you may pay 1 and flip them back. But what's his negative side look like? -1, mill 3 cards. Put a permanent card from among them into your hand. -3, create 2 3/3 elk creature tokens. Or -6, choose a creature type. You get an emblem with creatures you control of chosen type get +3/+3 and vigilance and hexproof. And he starts out as a 3 loyalty, so not that hard to flip and get that +6. Twin Flame Travelers 2 and blue, red, flying. Triggered abilities of other elementals of another elemental you control triggers. It triggers an additional time. Yeah, what I was going with. Elementals get double triggers. Bogart, Cursecrafter, red and black. I'm reading the colors backwards, but you get it. Death Touch, and whenever another goblin you control dies, this creature deals 1 damage to each opponent. And Grub's Command, 3 black, red, choose to create a token that's a copy of target creature, or target goblin, blah. Creature target player controls gets +1/+1 and gains haste. Destroy target artifact or creature. Target player mills 5 cards, then puts each goblin card milled this way into their hand. Goblin decks are eating. This is wild. Deep Way Navigator, white, blue. So flash, and when this creature enters, untap each other merfolk you control. Cool. As long as you attack with 3 or more merfolks you control get +1/+0. I think it's a must in a merfolk deck. High Perfect Morkant, 2 black and green. When this or another elf you control enters, each opponent blights 1. So you're forcing your opponent to blight. Sweet. And then tap 3 untapped elves you control. Proliferate. Activate only as a sorcery. So, yeah, that seems really good to proliferate like that. Ashleen's Command, 3 and blue, red, choose to get a copy of target elemental. Target player draws 2 cards. Ashleen's Command deals 2 damage to each creature target opponent controls, or target player creates 2 treasure tokens. And that is it for our multicolors. Now, we're almost there. 2 land cards I want to talk about. Eclipsed Realms, right? So you get to choose one of the Lorwyn types, and okay, when it enters, and at face it taps for a colorless. But it taps for 1 mana of any color if you use it to cast the type that you chose when it first entered. Sweet card. And then what I want to talk about is not just Overgrown Tomb, but all of the shocklands that we have that have come in. Now, here's a cool thing. They are dual-sided shocklands. They have the light, and then when they are plagued, the darkness version. So here we're seeing the darkness version of the Overgrown Tomb, and here we actually have the light version of the Overgrown Tomb. Awesome. Yeah, so that's it. We did it. We made it to the end. Now I have to go and I have to get all the times for every little itty bitty thing that we just talked about and put it on a YouTube video so you can see it at youtube.com slash probably jnix23. But if you're here, you already know that. I think this set's going to be really interesting. I think after going through a bunch of the cards, I'm feeling a lot better about the set. I felt kind of okay about it, but I didn't think it was going to be anything incredible. Make sure to check out some of my other Magic videos. Stop into my stream sometime. I'll be here. I'll be around almost nightly. I'm playing video games. So, tell me, do you think I missed any cards? Do you think I rated some cards too highly? What cards are you interested about? Feel free to tell me down below in the comments. But until next time, y'all, be kind. Let's get that W. Peace, y'all.